Y'all see there was an election recently in Britain? I talked about the election when it hadn't happened yet, but it has actually happened now. I think it was a few days ago. The French election is coming up too, but the British election actually happened, and the Conservatives got blown up. I think everybody expected that. The Labour Party won 411 seats, so they now have a majority in government. Uh, but there's some secret sauce there. There's some secret sauce in the UK election that a lot of people that I follow are talking about, because I follow a lot of people who pay attention to politics regularly. But um, this election was like, in terms of who got like a bunch of seats in government, it was a blowout for the Labour Party. But in terms of the vote, it was actually like embarrassing. The Labour Party only got like less than 34% of the vote, and they got like two-thirds of the seats. Because the UK has a weird constituency system. It's a little bit like the problem that America has with our system, where you can get like one-third of the votes and have two-thirds of the seats in some states or whatever, where they draw the lines really fucking weird. Um, you know, that's for one, right? That's like the first thing that's like the secret sauce there. And then the other thing is that like this election result doesn't even matter that much, because the Labour Party have been basically the same as the Tories for the past few months. Like, Labour Party's supposed to be the party of the workers. They're supposed to be all about union rights and fighting against austerity politics and stuff like that. And then they're just not, for some reason. And I mean, I could go on a massive tirade about why the Labour Party has been like really snake-like. It's not just that the Labour Party is acting a lot like the Conservatives. It's the way that they've done that, if that makes sense. Where the Labour Party had some pretty good promises in their like political platform and stuff, but they like went back on them. They like said, actually, just kidding, we didn't mean that. Education funding? Nah, just kidding, we didn't mean that. Fucking union support? Nah, just kidding, we didn't mean that. Trans rights? Nah, just kidding, we didn't mean that. And on and on and on, right? Like, they're just the Conservatives, but slightly less bad. And that's one respect in which this election was really embarrassing for the UK, because like the Conservative Party fucking destroyed Britain. Britain was a wealthy country until the Tories took power in the 70s and the 80s. And then like ever since, it's been a 40-year decline. Like, they've declined hard. And now they're just a poor country with one wealthy region. And that's because of austerity politics and like reactionism that is fueled by and fuels austerity politics. There's like a vicious cycle there. And Labour has decided, instead of like trying to pull the UK out of that, they've decided, what if we just did the same thing that's been killing Britain for the past 40 years? Because ultimately, the Labour Party isn't really a party of labor, right? They're just another party within a system that favors business interests, which is, capital, not labor. And that's part of why the vote totals were so low for the Labour Party, is because they weren't really all that compelling of an alternative to the Conservatives. The Liberal Democrats, thankfully, got some representation in the government. The Liberal Democrats actually had a pretty all right policy platform, like genuinely to the left of what Labour has indicated they're willing to support, which is good for fighting against austerity policy making. But like, they didn't perform that well. And there was another party that gained a lot of ground because of the lack of a viable like populist option on the left. You know, because of how the Labor Party's been acting, it left a lot of people really, really disillusioned. And it left a lot of people thinking, like, well, Labor and Tories are just the same. I want to vote for somebody who's, like, different. So there's some people who went and voted for the Green Party, and there's some people who went and voted for the, like, the Liberal Democratic Party. But then there are also some people who decided to vote for the Reform Party. Reform Party was the Brexit Party back in the day. I think they went through a couple of rebrands where like they used to be the Brexit Party, and then when people really didn't like Brexit, they decided to become the UK Independence Party, and then they became the Reform UK Party or something like that, right? If I look at the vote totals here, actually I have a Wikipedia page up. I see I prepared beforehand. The Liberal Democrats got 12% of the vote. The Conservatives got a little bit under 24%. The Labour Party got a little bit under 34%. And then who, like, where's the Reform Party? They got a decent number of seats, at least. I know it doesn't correspond to votes here. Hold on. UK election 2024 Reform Party? Highlights and key moments. Maybe the Associated Press will have something. I doubt it, though, because American news outlets never give you numbers. They hate numbers. Americans hate numbers, don't you know? Farage won a seat in Parliament. How many? Hmm. Wait, this has the makeup of the UK Parliament. Let me see. How many seats did Reform get? Only like 3. Hmm. UK election vote totals 2024. 4, not 5. Results and graphics. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so Reform got like 14% of the vote, which is not an insignificant amount. I think the last time there was an election, they didn't get even close to that much, which means that there are people who are saying like, man, the liberals, the or not liberals, the Labour Party and the Tories are basically the same. What if I went with somebody even worse? You know, effectively. Which, you know, from any sane person's perspective, like, you would, like, that's a stupid decision, but you gotta understand that, like, people not known for for their rational decision making usually. You know, so that's kind of what happens. You get stagnation and the lack of like good populist electoral options. Everybody's just institutionalists, and then you get a party that's willing to say like, hey, guess what? I can fix all of your problems if only you hate brown people more. And then if people are like, you know what, fuck it, sure. You know? Because people can be pretty dumb. So yeah, the UK elections were kind of like meh, very meh. Of course, it didn't help that Politico had a like, this is clearly outrage bait. Either that or it's like somebody is the dumbest fuck in the world and decided, you know what? Centrism is the lesson we should be learning from this, guys. Centrism works. Never mind the fact that Labor, like, by all metrics, underperformed what they should have done this election. You know, we should learn from the center left winning in the UK. Center left being very charitable to the Labour Party at this point, and adopt a centrist platform for all other left parties. Like they're trying to do the 1990s shtick, but it's 2024 and it's been 30 years since anybody like took that seriously. Radical domestic populace in the UK, US, and in Europe. Yeah, very, very funny. I wonder who is responsible for creating the circumstances that enabled those populists to rise in the first place. This is one of the really easy flaws to see in liberal analysis, is that they've been in power the whole time. Liberals have been in power the entire like 20th and 21st century. Like the implicit assumption that they sort of want people to draw, at least usually, is that the left is at fault for the rise of the far right. Either that or the far right's rise is literally inexplicable. When in reality, obviously everything's a product of circumstance. Insert meme about Kamala Harris saying, about the coconut tree. The far right was only able to have such a resurgence in the 21st century in like the 2010s because of the liberals. Because the liberals like didn't do anything to improve economic circumstances. It led to people getting more and more frustrated and being more and more susceptible to like reactionary propaganda. And it's pretty transparently dishonest to blame the rise of the far right on an ideological contingent that has literally never held power. You know, it's just like when it's like the opposite equivalent of when Democrats like lose an election or think they're gonna lose, and they just immediately start blaming the left, right? This is like that. They take all the credit when they win, and then they blame the left when they lose. Like that's just kind of what centrists do, and that's what Politico wants to sort of perpetuate here. Is like, hey, the centrists won the election. One being in air quotes because that win was kind of meh, as I explained, and so the centrists should get all the credit for that. And we don't need to pay attention to these radical populists that dare to suggest that, like, I don't know, maybe the system needs to change or something. Like, damn, that's crazy. Centrist Democrat think tank Third Way argues that Labor's sweeping win shows that centrism wins elections. Buddy, it shows the exact opposite. Corbyn got more votes in 2019, I think, than Labor did this time around, in terms of sheer percentage of votes. Because of the way the system is structured, it rewards being more conservative because it like some really complicated shit I can't get into, but running on a left platform will get you more votes every single time. In fact, this is like the lowest vote total that Labor has gotten in a while. So yeah, pretty obvious rage bait stuff from Politico, but that's content, baby. And fitting that the people arguing this are Third Way because it's disingenuous and snake-like. Very disingenuous of them, because it's just like it's very plainly evident that like this is a dead electoral strategy in every country where centrists have been in charge for a long time. Here, look, they don't even mention the far right. They're only concerned with the left-wing extremists, supposedly, in this other paragraph. This is like the centrist equivalent of third positionism, where people who are fascists pretend not to be fascists. In fact, this might just be third positionism light, because they only seem to hate the left. But yeah, I think I've said all I wanted to say about hating centrists and such. Centrists suck. Electoralism, not always the thing that works out for you. So, rip to the UK. Basically, there was theoretically an opportunity to not have centrists in charge and to like actually start fixing the problems that are like ever present in the UK, but they didn't do it because the centrist party cared more about compromising to capital interests. Like the Labour Party literally met with J.K. Rowling specifically, just apropos of nothing. No need to do so. No leverage. Like she didn't have any leverage on them. Just and said like, hey, do you want to set our platform? Like, what the fuck? That's the average centrist. The average centrist loses on purpose. don't don't uh, don't believe the pundits when they say like, see, this means centrism wins. Ow. America really is screwed. Yes, it is. All right, great poll. Yeah, America's screwed. Britain is screwed, I think, and so is Germany. Germany's for sure screwed because, well, there's no. It common to all of these countries is that there's not really a viable left wing option. There's not really a viable left party. There is like obviously there are parties that are to the left of other parties, relatively speaking, but like that isn't good enough. You know what I mean? Ow. There is no balance now. Yeah, no. And you wouldn't want there to be balance either. Like, that shouldn't be the objective. Your objective should be to gradually push things to the left, because that means more progressive social norms, more worker power in the economy, more democracy. To further democratize things, you have to continually push left. The mistake that every centrist party makes, in some cases it's not even a mistake, but like what every centrist party does is say, our policy objectives are to maintain things the way they are now. So they basically try to anchor themselves and not move. But they first of all, they tend to resist movement to the left more than movement to the right. And whenever movement to the right happens, they always like they sort of alter their position with that. Their position alters, so the anchor like moves. If that makes sense. What's up, Diddy Kong? You mentioned Britain earlier. What's going on with them? They just had an election. They had the Labour Party won, but I would only say won in like some decently heavy air quotes, because the Labour Party only got like 34% of the vote, and then the Conservative Party got 24% of the vote. The Liberal Democrats got like 12% of the vote, and the Reform Party, which is the far right party in the UK, got 14% of the vote. But the way that the UK works, because there's a mishmash of proportional representation and first past the post, it's like this weird constituency system. Labour has a 412-seat supermajority, and then the next party down is the Conservatives with only 121. So Labour literally has carte blanche to do whatever they want to do, right? Which theoretically should be good, right? Because the Labour Party should be a Labour Party. They should be social democratic or socialist, judging by the name. And, you know, historically, in the 20th century, Britain's Labour Party was actually at some of the forefront of the social democratic and socialist discourse in Europe. But that's actually not the case, because under Keir Starmer's leadership, the Labour Party has insanely like moved to the right. This was a problem under Tony Blair as well. Jeremy Corbyn provided a very brief breath of fresh air where the Labour Party seemed to be re-embracing left populism and social democracy, and potentially even socialism. But they have reneged on political promises that were part of their platform to such an extent that they have like almost removed all mention of labor from their party, except for the name itself, going as far as to say that they're the party of business, which means that they're the party of capital. They've reneged on like educational promises, like they've reneged on promises of repealing austerity policies. They've reneged on promises of nationalizing infrastructure and like deprivatizing the NHS. So in Britain, it's kind of like it's a hollow victory. Like Keir Starmer's pretty happy, the centrist Labourites are pretty happy, but this is basically going to be, I think, and a lot of other folks think as well, pretty much the same as when the Tories were in charge, because now the two parties are almost indistinguishable on economic terms, you know? Unironically, the Liberal Democrats are a more left-wing party now in the UK than the Tories or the Labour Party. You know, so that's what's going on with Britain. Things are not great over there. And of course, it doesn't bode well either that the Reform Party is gaining or has gained a lot of ground in terms of popular support, because, you know, after generations, after like 2 generations of like conservatism and economic austerity, Britain has been pretty much destroyed, and so that leads people to be very radicalized and disillusioned, which leads people to go to a far right party if there's no viable left populist option, which in Britain there really isn't. In your opinion, why are the major parties that are winning all right, like all on the right wing? In Britain, the Reform Party and the Conservative Party are self-explanatory, right? One's a far-right party, the other's the Conservative Party. And I've explained what makes Labour a right-wing party, right? That they started out from a position of being a very left-wing party, but have since compromised all of their promises to such an extent that now their platform doesn't meaningfully differ from the status quo. Remember, from one of those videos that I made, I think, liberals are not necessarily a constituent part of the left. Very frequently, they are part of the right. The Labour Party is very similar, at least in their behavior, and in some ways as well in their platform, to a lot of the center-right parties in Europe, which means the only two left-wing options in the UK, which there are theoretically left-wing options, are the Liberal Democrats and the Green Party. The Liberal Democrats are sort of a center-left liberal to social democratic party, and the Green Party as well, the Green Party, social democratic, with a special focus on ecology. So the major parties in Britain have either just been the Conservative Party, or they have since become conservative after like abandoning all their left-wing promises. Hell, they even abandoned most of their socially progressive promises, mostly around trans rights. I'm gonna go eat my lunch. Be back in like 20 minutes. Yeah, no problem. You know? And of course, it doesn't help as well. Even if Labour maintains some sort of left-wing policy positions on paper, good luck on the races. Thank you. They've been acting very dishonest in the way that they're fronting their politics. You know, kind of shifting the goalposts continually on what they actually support, to such an extent that I don't think they can be reasonably expected to be trusted to maintain any semblance of left-wing politics now that they are in power.